Today I want to talk about Snow White, more specifically Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage played Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones. He was the smartest guy in the room. He was the master of sarcasm, manipulation, and survival. He was the black sheep of the Lannister family because he was a dwarf. He was constantly being underestimated, but always 3 moves ahead. His character was summed up perfectly when he said,
"I drink and I know things."
He was House Lannister's unwanted problem, but also their secret weapon. He was funny, brutal, vulnerable, ruthless when he needed to be, and he was easily Peter Dinklage's career-defining performance. I mean, unless you count his role in Elf.
Call me Elf one more time.
He's an angry elf.
That was pretty epic too, but Game of Thrones, this made him the undisputed go-to little person in Hollywood. Well, back in 2022, Disney announced their latest live-action remake of Snow White. Appearing on some podcast somewhere, Dinklage basically said, to paraphrase, "Cool, but you're still doing a story about 7 dwarves living in a cave?" He claimed that Disney was leaning on what he viewed as outdated, stereotypical portrayals of people with dwarfism. My first question here was, is living in a cave really a stereotype for dwarves? Was that ever a stereotype about dwarves? And not everyone in the dwarf acting community agreed. In fact, quite a few working dwarf actors were less than thrilled with his position. For many of them, those roles are still some of the only steady gigs available in a very limited industry. The thing is, it's easy for Peter Dinklage to dismiss dwarf roles when he's the go-to dwarf. He seems to be the only little person Hollywood is willing to cast, outside of comic relief. So fast forward to today, and the Snow White remake is a disaster. The entire internet is blaming Rachel Zegler, and I gotta say I disagree.
You're a simp.
Nope. I'm no fan of hers at all. I don't think she's a particularly good actress. I don't like her singing voice. And I don't think she's good looking at all. I just don't think that all of the blame should have fallen squarely on her shoulders. I mean, she's definitely not helping at all, but maybe this whole disaster started with Peter Dinklage. Remember, the first wave of backlash against this movie wasn't about Zegler. It was about Dinklage. His viral comments were the opening shot, and Disney panicked. Originally, Disney's solution was to not have dwarves at all. Then those horrible leaked set photos came out. They revealed the 7 dipshits, a ragtag lineup of tall, short, fat, thin, diverse, magical beings who look like they all escaped from a thrift store or maybe a Spirit Halloween store. The reaction to that photo really stirred up the controversy. At first, Disney claimed that the photos were fake. Then they claimed the photos were of stand-ins and that the CGI would be added later. They just kept digging themselves deeper and deeper. Then they supposedly scrapped the 7 dipshits and replaced them with CGI magical creatures. I haven't seen the movie, but from what I understand, this wasn't completely true either. It sounds like there are 2 entirely different story arcs now, one dealing with CGI magical creatures and the other dealing with the 7 dipshits. And just as a side note, I do want to again mention that the constant complaints about CGI are just ridiculous. Everyone made fun of the dwarves' design. I had no issue with the way they looked. In the trailers, I'm not sure what people expected, but they look like the characters from the animated movie. And I guess I'm always in the minority with this one thing, though. Minority?
Racist.
Everyone always complains about the CGI. So here's a quick truth bomb. CGI is never going to look real when animating any kind of humans or human-like creatures. Spaceships, robots, technology in general, yes. Maybe some monsters or aliens, but walking, talking, breathing people are always going to look a little off. If you can do better, let's see it. If not, shut the fuck up. Anyway, all the chaos, confusion, production rewrites, all that stuff happened long before Rachel Zegler's infamous PR meltdown. I'm sure you've all seen it by now, so I won't bother digging up the clips, but basically it was this. Zegler called the original 1937 Snow White weird. She called the prince a stalker. She bragged that her version of Snow White wouldn't need no man to save her. She joked about only taking the role for the paycheck. And through it all, she made it crystal clear that she had no respect for the original movie or its fan base. Then she used her platform to say some political things while promoting the movie. It was like she had a checklist labeled how to make everyone hate you in 30 seconds or less. So yeah, Rachel Zegler absolutely dumped gasoline on everything. But to get back to my original point, Peter Dinklage might have been the guy who lit the match. This leads to my question. Was Peter Dinklage really advocating for social progress? Or was this a little bit of market protection? Think about it. If Disney had cast 7 little people in a massive global blockbuster, and even one of them turned out to be super charismatic, super talented, and super marketable, that's suddenly a lot of new competition in the market for Dinklage, and he's dominated that market for the past 2 decades. If that's what he had in mind, it worked. Disney responded to his criticism by not finding better roles for little people, but by firing them altogether. Instead of 7 acting jobs in a major Disney production, there are now 0. Instead of a groundbreaking moment of representation, audiences would get CGI. But I don't know, maybe Peter Dinklage was bravely standing up for the dignity of his people. Or maybe he was a gatekeeper. What do you think? Is Peter Dinklage a hero? A villain? Either way, I place the blame of this dismal failure of a movie squarely on him. The entire production started on the wrong foot and it never found its rhythm. And it's a shame, because he was easily my favorite character in Game of Thrones. Well, second favorite character.
Simp.
Anyway, that's it. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I
Racist.
Let me know all the reasons you think I'm an idiot in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, click notifications, and I will see you next time.